Have you ever walked away from someone and wondered if it even mattered to them? No drama, no tears. Just you, silently choosing yourself over their chaos. They didn't say thank you. They didn't fight for you. And maybe part of you thought, was I that easy to forget? Here's the truth no one tells you. Just because you left quietly doesn't mean you left without impact. You see, karma doesn't work on volume. It works on energy, and the energy you left with, cold, clean, and unforgettable. This one's for you, the woman who left without a mark, because karma never misses. You didn't need to scream. You didn't need to post cryptic messages, confront him in public, or make sure everyone knew your side of the story. You didn't need to prove anything. That silence, that was your power. And it takes far more strength to say nothing than to try and be heard by someone who was never really listening in the first place. Walking away quietly isn't weakness. It's the kind of strength most people never learn to carry. It's grace under fire. It's dignity in the face of disrespect. It's knowing that peace is more valuable than being right. When someone hurts us, especially someone we care deeply about, the most human reaction is to want to be seen and understood. We want them to acknowledge the damage. We want them to admit it, regret it, feel the weight of what they did. But here's the thing, people who are capable of hurting you without remorse are often incapable of giving you that validation. You already tried, you already gave them the benefit of the doubt, you already explained how you felt, maybe not once but several times. And if they still didn't care enough to change, what would another conversation, another plea, another emotional outburst really achieve? Your silence was the moment you finally took the power back. You stopped asking to be heard because you realized that staying in a situation where you constantly had to explain your worth was the loudest kind of betrayal. To yourself. You didn't need to slam the door, you just closed it, and that's why it echoes, because it wasn't performative. It wasn't for attention, it wasn't to win, it was for you. Silence confuses people who are used to having control. People who expect you to beg, to chase, to fall apart without them. But when you walk away quietly, they're left alone with nothing to argue with. No text to twist, no fight to distract them from the truth. Just a version of you they'll never have access to again. That's not silence, that's power disguised as calm. It's easy to think the person who speaks last wins. But in reality, the person who stops showing up to the conversation they never felt heard in wins everything. Because choosing silence doesn't mean you didn't care. It means you finally cared enough about yourself to stop wasting your energy on someone who made you feel like you were too much or not enough, often at the same time. That silence was your boundary, it was the last thing you gave them, and it wasn't cruel, it was necessary. Some people won't realize what they lost until there's no more noise, no more presence, no more access to you. And they might never say it. They might pretend it doesn't matter, but deep down they feel it. Because someone who walks away with peace, poise, and self-respect without trying to win is unforgettable, not because of what they said, but because of what they didn't need to. You left without a scene, you didn't need a finale. You didn't leave in a storm, you became the calm after it, and that calm carries weight. You didn't walk away weak. You walked away wise, because silence doesn't mean you had nothing to say. It means you finally decided that your peace was louder than their chaos. Just because someone was in your life doesn't mean they left a meaningful mark. It's a hard truth to accept, especially when you care deeply, when you gave them your time, your energy, and pieces of yourself that you didn't offer easily. But not every presence leaves a legacy. Not every connection is meant to shape you in a lasting way. And sometimes when they walk away, what you feel isn't heartbreak, it's relief. Sometimes the absence says more than their presence ever did. We often mistake time spent with someone for emotional value. We tell ourselves, They must have mattered because they were part of my life for so long. But duration doesn't equal depth. Some people are just passing through. They show up with the illusion of meaning, but when they go, it's like nothing changed because deep down, they were never truly present to begin with. You were there, you felt it, you gave real energy, but they didn't meet you there, and that imbalance is what makes their exit feel hollow, not devastating. You might be asking yourself why it doesn't hurt more, why it feels oddly quiet, and that's because you did the emotional work while they coasted. You processed things while they avoided them. You invested while they stayed detached. So when they leave, it doesn't shake your world. It just removes the distraction, and sometimes what you thought was love was just a habit, a routine, a comfort zone that had nothing to do with connection and everything to do with fear of letting go. It's okay to admit that someone you once thought meant the world to you didn't, not in the way you imagined. That's not a failure on your part. In fact, it's growth. It means you're starting to see people more clearly, not through the lens of potential, but through the lens of presence. Were they really showing up for you, or were you filling in the gaps with hope, excuses, and imagination? What hurts isn't always their loss. It's the story you told yourself about what they could have been. The version of them you held on to, thinking they might evolve, change, step up. But that version was never real. And letting that fantasy go is often what brings the most peace, because you start to realize their exit didn't leave you empty. It just created space for someone who will show up, who will matter, and who won't have to be chased to do so. You don't need to carry every connection with you. Not everyone earns a permanent place in your story. Some are just chapters, short ones you flip past with quiet recognition, not resentment. They taught you something. Maybe about your boundaries, maybe about your blind spots, but they didn't leave a scar, and that's important to acknowledge. Because we sometimes assume that if it didn't wreck us, it wasn't real. But maybe it just wasn't right, and your intuition already knew that before your heart caught up. The truth is, not everyone deserves a memorial in your memory. Some people were just moments, background noise in a louder, more meaningful journey. And that's okay. Let them fade. Let their absence blend into the background, because the people who truly matter, the ones who shape your soul, don't disappear without trace. They leave behind warmth, lessons, growth. This person didn't, and that's not tragic, that's clarity. So if you find yourself wondering why it doesn't hurt like you thought it would, trust that feeling. It means you're healing. It means you've grown past the need to assign meaning to everything that once felt big. Some things shrink when you step back, some people vanish when you stop reaching, and some losses aren't losses at all. They're just life creating room for something better. Not every ending deserves your emotion. That might sound cold, especially if you were the one who cared more, tried harder, or held on longer. But it's the kind of truth that sets you free when you finally accept it. We grow up believing that every goodbye should be this dramatic, heart-wrenching experience. We think that if someone mattered, their exit should feel like a hole in our life, but not all goodbyes are equal. Some are just quiet acknowledgements that you've outgrown a situation, a person, or a dynamic that was never really serving you in the first place. Sometimes the pain isn't from the ending itself, it's from your attachment to the story you built around it. You expected them to be someone they never were. You hoped the relationship would evolve in a way that it never could. And when reality finally caught up with your expectations, it wasn't explosive. It was just clear. Sometimes clarity comes not in the form of a fight or a betrayal, but in the calm realization that you've been holding onto something that no longer has a place in your life. And that kind of ending doesn't need tears, it just needs truth. We tend to believe that showing emotion proves we cared, that the louder we grieve, the more valid our experience was. But maturity teaches you that your feelings are valid even in silence, even in indifference. When you've poured yourself into something for so long and it doesn't grow, when you've explained yourself over and over and nothing changes, there comes a point where you just feel done, and that kind of emotional exhaustion doesn't come with fireworks. It comes with stillness. That stillness is not numbness. It's not coldness, it's peace, the kind that comes after you've tried every other reaction. You've cried, begged, blamed yourself, blamed them, hoped and clung, and none of it changed the outcome. So now you're not angry, you're not even sad, you're just ready to move on, and that's a powerful place to be. Because emotional detachment doesn't mean you didn't love. It means you've stopped bleeding for someone who wouldn't even offer you a bandage. You don't need to fall apart to prove that something was meaningful. You don't need to post about it, write about it, or revisit it 100 times. Sometimes the most respectful thing you can do for yourself is walk away quietly and never look back. Give it no more energy, no more thought, because some endings are just natural conclusions. They're not tragedies, they're transitions. When you look back at certain people or situations and feel nothing, that's not heartlessness, that's growth. That's your soul recognizing that not everything requires a dramatic response. Not everything deserves to live rent-free in your head. And certainly, not everyone earns the privilege of your breakdown. You can love someone and still decide they're not good for you. You can invest in something and still realize it's time to cash out. That's not failure, that's wisdom. The most powerful thing you can do after certain endings is to let them be just that, an ending. No extended conversations. No unfinished business. No analyzing every detail. Some doors close without a sound, and that silence is the closure. You don't owe every person or every chapter a piece of your heart. Sometimes it's enough to say, "This is done. I've felt what I needed to feel, and now I choose peace. No anger, no tears. Just the quiet confidence of someone who finally knows when to stop giving energy to what no longer deserves it." You don't need to chase closure. So often we think the only way to heal or move on is to get answers, to hear an apology, to understand why, to have a final conversation that ties everything up neatly. But sometimes that closure isn't meant to come from the other person. Sometimes it's not something you can demand or force. It's something you have to allow yourself to receive in a different way, through trust, patience, and faith that what's meant for you will come back around. Karma is the closure you don't have to chase. It's the natural way the universe balances the scales, quietly but inevitably. You might not see it immediately. You might not witness the consequences landing at the feet of someone who hurt you. But that doesn't mean it's not happening. It means you can stop obsessing over fairness or justice, because those things have their own timing and they're already in motion without your interference. It's tempting to want to watch what happens next, to see the person who wronged you stumble, fail, or regret their choices. It feels like a form of control, like finally having the upper hand. But the truth is, when you focus on that, you're still tied to them. You're still holding on to the pain and the story. You're still giving your energy to someone who took from you. And the irony is, you rob yourself of peace by doing so. Letting karma do the work means stepping out of that cycle. It means trusting that you don't have to be the judge, the jury, and the executioner. It means knowing that you don't need to orchestrate the outcome because the universe is already busy handling it. This kind of surrender is incredibly powerful because it frees you from bitterness, anger, and the exhausting need for revenge. When you hand it over to karma, you reclaim your energy. You stop spinning in circles of what ifs and why me. You stop replaying conversations and second-guessing your worth. Instead, you focus on yourself, on healing, growing, and building a life that no one can take away from you. That's where true closure lies, not in external validation or retribution, but in your own peace. It's important to recognize that karma isn't about punishment or spite. It's about natural consequences. It's about cause and effect. If someone chose to hurt you, to lie, to take advantage, those actions create ripples in their own life that eventually come back. It's not your job to watch for them or to gloat. It's your job to trust that those ripples exist and to keep moving forward with your head held high. You've already done the hardest part, stepping away, setting boundaries, refusing to be defined by someone else's mistakes. Now the rest is out of your hands, and that's a relief. Because when you realize that karma is working quietly in the background, you can let go of the exhausting need for control and just be present in your own life. Sometimes the biggest lesson in heartbreak or betrayal isn't in the story of what happened, but in learning how to let go. Letting go of the desire for closure from the person who hurt you, letting go of the expectation that things should end a certain way, and instead embracing the uncertainty with faith. Faith that justice is already unfolding, even if you can't see it yet. That trust allows you to move on with clarity and calm. It gives you the space to rebuild your confidence, to rediscover your worth, and to open yourself up to new possibilities without dragging the past behind you. Because once you hand over your pain to karma, you're free to live fully again. You're free to create a future that's not shadowed by what was, but illuminated by what's next. In the end, closure isn't about final words or actions from others. It's about what you choose to believe and how you choose to live. Karma is the closure you don't have to chase because it's already doing its work, behind the scenes, waiting for the perfect moment to bring balance. And your part is to let it be, trust the process, and walk forward with your peace intact. When you walk away, especially from someone who didn't truly value you, your departure is more than just a physical act. It's a powerful lesson in itself. It's the ultimate statement that you will no longer tolerate being treated as less than you deserve. You don't have to shout, explain, or justify your decision for it to resonate deeply. Sometimes the strongest message you can send is the one you communicate simply by leaving. Walking away was your power move because it showed that you recognized your own worth. You realized that staying in a situation where you were undervalued wasn't a sign of loyalty or love. It was a form of self-betrayal. You made a choice to honor yourself rather than cling to someone who failed to appreciate the person you are. And that choice, while painful, is transformative. It teaches others, and most importantly yourself, that your time, your energy, and your love are not commodities to be wasted on those who don't recognize their value. The lesson you gave them isn't delivered with harsh words or accusations. It's silent but unmistakable. By walking away, you showed what it means to have standards and boundaries. You demonstrated that you won't settle for less than respect and kindness. Sometimes people need to learn this lesson the hard way, by feeling the absence of someone they took for granted. Your departure becomes the wake-up call they never expected. But here's the deeper truth: that lesson isn't just for them. It's also for you. Walking away was a declaration of your growth and self-awareness. It was a refusal to keep circling back to pain, disappointment, or confusion. It was a choice to step into your own power and reclaim control over your happiness. This act of leaving isn't just about ending something, it's about beginning anew. It's about creating space for healthier connections and better experiences. When you decide to leave, you teach yourself how to prioritize your own emotional health. You practice courage, the kind that doesn't always roar, but quietly stands firm. You remind yourself that you deserve love that is mutual, respect that is consistent, and a relationship where you are celebrated, not just tolerated. That kind of lesson is priceless, and it's the foundation for all future relationships. Sometimes the hardest part isn't walking away, it's realizing that you have the right to do so. You may have believed for a long time that love means sacrifice, compromise, or enduring hardship, but real love, the the kind that nurtures and uplifts, doesn't require you to lose yourself. Your departure taught you that love begins with self-respect. It's the starting point for all meaningful connections. Leaving is also a lesson in timing. It's about recognizing when holding on is no longer serving you, and when letting go is the most loving act you can do for yourself. This understanding isn't always immediate. It often comes after many moments of doubt, fear, and sadness. But when it arrives, it brings clarity and strength. You see that walking away isn't giving up, it's growing up emotionally. And that growth radiates outward. When you show up in the world with that kind of self-respect, you attract people who mirror that energy back to you. You set a standard not only for how others treat you, but also for how you treat yourself. That's the ripple effect of the lesson you gave by walking away. It changes your life in ways you couldn't have imagined when you first made that choice. Your departure, though quiet, is a powerful act of self-love. It's a boundary that protects your heart and your future. It's a message to anyone who tries to diminish your worth that you won't accept less than you deserve. More than anything, it's a lesson in empowerment, one that stays with you long after the person you left behind has realized what they lost. Because sometimes walking away is the loudest statement you can make. Your value is never determined by someone else's inability to see it. This is a truth that often takes time and experience to fully grasp, especially when you've invested so much in a person who failed to appreciate who you are. It's easy to fall into the trap of internalizing their blindness, mistaking their lack of recognition for your own shortcomings. But the reality is that their failure to see your worth says far more about their limitations than it ever could about you. When someone can't appreciate your kindness, your strength, or your presence, it's not because those qualities don't exist. It's because they don't have the eyes to recognize them. Maybe they were caught up in their own struggles, insecurities, or distractions. Maybe they were looking for something different, something that wasn't really about you at all. Whatever the reason, their inability to value you is a reflection of their perspective, not your truth. It's crucial to separate your self-worth from how others treat you. You are not defined by their attention, their praise, or even their rejection. Your value is inherent. It doesn't fluctuate based on someone's mood or their willingness to acknowledge it. Understanding this frees you from the exhausting cycle of trying to prove yourself or earn approval. It allows you to stand tall and confident, knowing that your worth exists independently of anyone else's opinions. This realization also helps you avoid the pain of chasing validation from those who are incapable of giving it. When you seek appreciation from someone who doesn't see you clearly, you set yourself up for disappointment. You invest time and emotion into a void, hoping for recognition that will never come. But once you recognize that their blindness is about them, not you, you can redirect your energy toward people who truly value you. That shift is empowering because it prioritizes your well-being over someone else's limitations. It's natural to want to understand why someone didn't appreciate you, to replay moments and search for explanations. But sometimes the answer is simply that they couldn't see you, and that's okay. Not everyone is meant to be part of your story forever. Some people come and go, not because you weren't enough, but because they weren't the right fit for your life. Holding on to them only clouds your ability to recognize the people who will celebrate your worth and encourage your growth. Your worth isn't just about being seen, it's about being valued. Being noticed superficially is not enough. True value is felt deeply through respect, understanding, and genuine care. When someone fails to offer that, it's a sign that they don't have the capacity to honor you fully. And while that might sting at first, it's a blessing in disguise. It clears the path for relationships where your value is not just acknowledged but cherished. This truth also invites you to cultivate self-appreciation. When external validation falls short, your own recognition becomes essential. Celebrate your strengths, your achievements, and your uniqueness. Remind yourself daily that you are worthy of love and respect, no matter who fails to see it. This internal validation becomes your anchor, keeping you steady in the face of rejection or indifference. Moreover, recognizing that someone's inability to see your value is their loss empowers you to move on without bitterness. You don't need to resent or regret the relationship. Instead, you can accept it as a chapter that ended not because you were lacking, but because they were not equipped to appreciate you. This mindset brings peace and opens your heart to new possibilities where your worth will be honored. In the end, your value is an unshakable truth. It exists whether or not others acknowledge it, and when you fully embrace this, you reclaim your power. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into someone else's limited view and start living boldly in the fullness of who you are. That freedom is the foundation for healthier relationships, deeper self-love, and a life that reflects your true worth, no matter who failed to see it before. At the end of the day, your worth isn't defined by those who couldn't see it, nor by the echoes they leave behind when they walk away. True strength lies in recognizing your value, setting your boundaries, and choosing peace over pain. Walking away quietly, without bitterness or need for validation, is a powerful act of self-respect, a declaration that you deserve better and that karma will handle what's fair. Remember, the most important closure comes from within, and when you trust in that, you free yourself to step into a future filled with respect, love, and genuine connection. Your story isn't about those who left. It's about the courage it took to walk away and the wisdom you carry forward.